Hi there, I'm Nils with Learn to DIY Woodworking, and today I'll be comparing these 3 blast gates for your dust collection system to see which ones are most efficient. And I'll also be comparing this brand new latest offering from Powertec with a new improved design to supposedly reduce clog and give you better airflow. So let's take a look and see how they all hold up one against the other. Now for each of these comparisons, I'm going to be using a standard 4-inch dust collection system. And I've also got what's called an anemometer here. And basically you can see on the screen here, if I blow some wind into this, it will measure the velocity of the wind, and it's doing that in feet per minute, and that'll give us a pretty apples to apples comparison between each of these blast gates. Now to set a control here, I'm going to place this anemometer right up to our system with no blast gates in place. All right, and we're measuring 3050 approximately. Let's take a look at the different blast gates and see how they hold up when they're brand new and clean and there's no debris in them at all. So first up today is our standard aluminum blast gate. These are very common. We've seen these all over the place. This one has the big hole for pass-through when it's open, closes like this. Now the first thing you'll notice on this one though is that there is some play in here. It's kind of wobbly and that will affect how well it does when it's closed. Let's see how it does. All right, here we go. First test is wide open. Let's run this and see what we get. Looks like we're getting about 3070. So this thing is pretty much wide open, doing a great job keeping it open, and pretty much the same as our control. So doing a really nice job there. Let's see how it does when it's closed. Now for each of these when it's closed, I'm just gonna put my finger in there to stop the fan blades for a second, let it zero out, and then let's see where it gets back to. Okay, we definitely have some air loss in there. We're looking at 137, maybe still rising, I don't know. So about 137 as far as the velocity there. And one thing I know on these, because they're a little bit loose, you get different results depending on how it's closed. From one time to the next, it might be a little bit different. So let's try it again. That time it went to 0, so totally different results. Now you imagine if you've got 137 cubic feet per minute running through on each of your blast gates that you think are closed, that's going to drastically reduce the amount of suction that you have from the one that you want to use. Let's try another version here. And this time we're getting roughly 100, okay? So again, different results each time, which means it's not the most consistent one. Next up, we're gonna try out the old standby. This is probably one of the most common blast gates out there because it's probably about the least expensive blast gate out there. So this one is made out of ABS. It's got a major design flaw, which I've addressed in another video that I'll put a link to at the end of the video here and in the description. But basically, this one holds really tight when it's closed, and when it's open, it seems to have a nice open amount. It does have a little lip there, but that doesn't seem to affect things much. Let's take a look at how it does. All right, we are getting 3346, okay? So 3300 plus on that one. Let's see what happens when we close it. I'll stop the fan blade. 0. Okay, complete blockage there, which is exactly what you want for your dust collection system. So this one's zeroed out, does a great job at doing that. Next up, we're gonna compare the newest offering from Powertec. And this blast gate is brand new, just came out pretty recently. It's actually directional, unlike some of the other ones. So it's actually got an in and an outside. And that's because if you look inside here, there are 2 flanges of differing sizes. So it's meant to actually funnel the air in towards the dust collector. Also, one of the things I like on this one that I noticed right away in playing with this a little bit is that it snaps into place when it's open. So you know that the gate is fully open and fully engaged. And if you want to close it, seems to perform a pretty nice seal here. We'll test that out. And then the other thing that I like on this, unlike the old black plastic ones or ABS ones, you can just push in these tabs and then the whole door comes right out. Let's see how it performs. Now one thing I noticed right away on these is that the flange on these doesn't taper very much at all. It actually only tapers about 5/100ths of an inch. And that seems to be enough, but it's not as well tapered as some of the others. I'd like to see a little more flange on there, honestly. All right, let's open it up and see how it does. See, it's a little loose hanging on there. All right, we've got about 3012 on there. 3030. So 312 to 330, even dipping down under 3000 a little bit. Let's see what happens when it closes if it gives us a full seal. Closed, stop the fan blade. Okay, so this one does perform a full close. There is zero suction going through there, and it's totally blocking it off like it should. Okay, so that was the easy test, honestly. The real test is how do these perform after they've been used for a while? Let's say you've been using these for a year and you've got all kinds of dust and debris going through them. Do they still close properly? Do they open all the way? Do they have the same airflow they had when they were new? So to put that to the test, I've got a bucket of sawdust here. We're gonna start cramming all of the nooks and crannies in here with the sawdust as best we can to see how they hold up after they've been used for a while. Now, if you're wondering about cost comparison, basically the aluminum blast gates start at about $12.77 for a single blast gate, and you can buy them for as cheap as $10 a piece when you buy 6 of them. The black blast gates are the least expensive ones, starting at about $8, and those ones go down as low as $5.83, less than $6 if you buy 6 of those. And then the new orange offering costs $10 for a single one, and as low as $7.50 if you buy 2 of those in a pair. We're gonna start with the aluminum blast gate again. Okay, so now we've got this wide open on the aluminum blast gate, and we're really right about the same place we were before. Definitely looks good when it's wide open. Now the important test here is how well does it close. And we're getting basically the same as before, a little over 100, 137 again, just like we had earlier. Okay, all right, next up we're gonna try the black ABS here. So I'm gonna put this in here. Again, really good numbers. I don't know if that's quite the same as we had before, but still really good and better than our control, better than a wide open system. So it's doing a great job at pulling that air through when it's open. Now here's the part where this thing usually fails. Okay, there it is. So I can already feel by the crunch I felt when I tried to close that, it's not closed all the way. And that's very evident here. Imagine if you had 430 cubic feet per minute of air blocked on every single one of your, or excuse me, getting through on each one of your blast gates, then it really reduces the effectiveness of your system. So that's where these ones don't do so well. Now again, I've got another video that I'll link to right up top here where you can see a quick tip that I used for fixing that, and it costs basically nothing and just takes a few minutes and really makes good use of these systems. They can be really good with a little adjustment. Let's move on to the new one from Powertec here. I'm gonna make sure to face this the right direction and put that on there. And then let's, yeah, I've got it wide open. All right, now we're getting 3169. That one's actually doing better than it did before, if I'm not mistaken. My memory might not serve, but that's looking really good while it's open. Now the real test. Let's see how it does when it closes. Okay, I hear whistling, so we've got some gap there. Okay, we're in the upper 100s in this case, mid to upper 100s. So definitely better than the black one, but not as good as the silver. All right, time out, little interruption from the future here. It's been a few weeks since I recorded the rest of the footage for this video, and I noticed something totally different about these particular blast gates. I addressed it a little bit, but I didn't realize what a difference it makes. So this is directional, meaning that there's an in direction and an out direction towards your dust collection system. And what I've seen is because this has a bigger ramp on the inward direction, it's basically a tighter opening here, a lot of the dust and debris, rather than getting caught inside this crevice, will actually skip right past it. So think of it like a little bike ramp, and it just, all the debris just jumps over it and goes straight into the actual dust collector. On the back side, it's got a wider opening and therefore a smaller lip here, and so it doesn't catch that stuff. So when I'm packing stuff in here, that's you know, something that can happen, I suspect, but it's much less likely to happen because of the design of this. So that is the trick that this one has up its sleeve, and it makes it a lot less likely that in a real world use case that this would actually get clogged like that. If it does, you can clean it out, but it's nice to not ever have to really worry about that, or at least not as much. So I definitely wanted to interrupt real quick and show you that that's a pretty important factor about this particular blast gate. So it's getting in that same range each time, and you can hear that whistling. Let's take a look and see what's going on in there. So right there, there's just that little bit that you can see, and it's not quite closed all the way because there's some blockage there. So again, at least with this one, we have the option, yeah, you can see it from the other side here as well. We have the option to take this out and then even clear it out. Let some of that stuff suck out. That may have been all it needed. Just in case, I'm going to Try and fish some of this out. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a bunch more. Let's see what we get this time. Oh, I can already hear it. That's a tight seal. Yeah, we're down to 0 again. So it can be cleaned out, but it did get a little bit in there. So I'd say this one performs second best as far as just out of the gate being able to work with some dust being clogged inside the blast gate itself. So you decide which one works best for you. If you want to check out another comparison that I did using some 3D printed blast gates, there's some pretty fun ones here with some valves, including this ball valve and everything. You can check that video out right here.